said at one of their events, old stock, white Canadians, and that's us. We don't have to apologize for this room being filled with white people. This used to be what Alberta was. We're not apologizing for being ourselves. And us today as First Nations people, we're not apologizing for being ourselves. This is unceded treaty territory. We make no mistake, an independent Alberta is a non-Indigenous one. At Mikisew, we have fought and won all the way to the Supreme Court in international arenas, including at UNESCO. This is why we stand here in solidarity with the nations that are putting these cases forward. And we, the Mikisew Chief and Council, have instructed our council to file a statement of claim against Alberta, but also Canada. Our claim focuses on the referendum following the petition that Smith has bent over backwards to make sure that it happens. We are throwing our support 100% behind Sturgeon Lake, the ACFN, and the Blackfoot. This is all our fight as treaty people. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Tucker. Chief Hammond, please.
I'm going to say this. Foreign interference law that was put here in Alberta was created because of ACFN when we lobbied international groups to help us fight against the tar sands. This law was created for foreign interference to stop interfering in Canadian law here in Alberta. But yet the UCP government goes against their own laws that they created to stop us. And yet they are getting foreign money for separation. You heard the Treasury from the United States on TV saying, yes, Alberta should join. That's foreign interference. That is the Treasury of the United States. He's in charge of money. Could you understand the amount of things that are going on? I'm calling you out, Premier Smith, in regards to what is it yet you're doing. We know for a fact that all these people that are on the separate, going around these polling stations, going around houses, knocking on doors, my insides, my sources tell me that every individual that's there are getting paid $20,000 a month. They're not doing this for nothing. That is dark money running around here in Alberta to push the separation agenda. Because there's no Canadian supporting this. If there is a law that's put out there to stop foreign money coming in, then the UCP government, the Prosperity Project, the Independents, you are all in breach of a law that was created here in Alberta. Your own government created this law. It wasn't the NDP, it was the Conservative government that created this law, that no foreign interference with dark money will hinder the process of what Alberta is going to do. But here it's welcome because what? Of a nationalist movement. And I'm calling on all international nations and communities to support the First Nations movement here in Alberta, to tell the Alberta government that what they are doing is unconstitutional and that the foreign interference has to stop. We are not second-class citizens. We are citizens of this land long before the colonizers came, and we will be here long after the colonizers are gone. We know for a fact, once the resources are gone, the colonizers go. How do I know that? 1980, 81, 82, Uranium City closed. All the people that left were the colonizers, and the people that stayed were the people of the homeland. Now, today, the same people that left back in the 80s are going back to Uranium City because of the new find and the new riches. And all those riches and new finds that you're finding reside in all our homelands. Alberta belongs to the First Nations people and will always be the homelands of our First Nations people. I always say this. Show me the declaration of war before Premier Smith could say that the oil and the resources belong to Albertans. Because it don't. It belongs to the First Nations people. It belongs to the First Nations people. And we signed treaty to share it with you. We didn't sign treaty for separations for you to pack your belongings to go wherever you want to go. So Premier Smith and the UCP cabinet, I hope you have your bags packed, because when this referendum is defeated, I will gladly walk you to the border. Senator.
Thank you, Chief Adam. Chief Knowlton.
Chief Troy Knowlton, Troy Bossman Knowlton, Piikani Nation, current president of the Blackfoot Confederacy. I'd like to thank the Treaty 8 chiefs for arranging this meeting today. To the members of the press, we're going to share our message to those Albertans who are looking for an alternative to the rhetoric. Albertans have been blinded by the rhetoric of a few, but many refuse to acknowledge as the First Nations history, the treaty agreements that were guaranteed by the Crown, and our continued presence on our lands that have done so for tens of thousands of years. Today, many people could see through those who promote separatism that it's nothing more than political fantasy. There are so many obstacles that they would have to get through before there was ever any type of separation from Canada. You know, for thousands of years, the First Nations that you see here from Treaty 6, 7, and 8, including those to the west in BC and to the east, we were in conflict. We warred against each other for the resources that were buffalo and otherwise. For thousands of years. Today we stand united in a common goal that's to protect our land, our rights, our jurisdiction against us. Another invading peoples. We faced it 200 years ago, and today in this modern age we're still dealing with invaders who want to change the narrative and disregard the history of First Nations, of all Albertans. You know, in a previous meeting that we had, I pointed it out to anyone out there who has problems with First Nations, who has problems with Canada. If that problem is so big, you could go. How about that? Because we've been here time immemorial and we're not going anywhere. So I thank you all for today, and I'll pass it on to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Knowlton.
I'd like to take this time to remind everybody here that all statutory decision makers are bound by the Constitution, including the protection of Aboriginal rights under Section 35 of the Constitution. The duty to consult and accommodate is an obligation on all statutory decision makers empowered to make decisions that may implicate Aboriginal rights, and arises when the Crown knows or ought to know of potential Aboriginal rights and contemplates conduct that may adversely affect those rights. We were not consulted on this issue. Our rights are threatened today. We were not consulted on this issue. Our rights are threatened today. Siksika Nation rejects any attempt to illegitimately transfer or surrender Blackfoot territory or any action that affects our rights without consultation, without consent. We adamantly oppose all Alberta secession initiatives. Despite clear warnings from First Nations, Alberta's passage of Bill 14 signals a willingness to support unconstitutional land transfers that disregard treaty obligations and the honor of the Crown. The courts have affirmed that secession initiatives constitute a derogation of treaty rights. Our treaty rights are binding agreements, not subject to provincial authority or public opinion. The courts have affirmed, Siksika Nation calls on the Alberta government to publicly reaffirm the binding nature of treaties, to acknowledge its lack of authority to alter those treaties, to engage directly with treaty nations, to repeal Bill 14 as it applies to the Citizens Initiatives Act, and seek an injunction to pause all related petitions. Standing in solidarity with other First Nations, Siksika will consider all measures of redress available to protect treaty and Aboriginal rights. Treaties are still the living foundations of peaceful, respectful coexistence, and it is because of those sacred treaties that Alberta even exists in the first place. As long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the water flows, Alberta has an affirmative duty to uphold their treaty relationship, not circumvent it or ignore it at their convenience.
The separatist movement a couple days ago at their meeting in Edmonton, Jeffrey Rath said Indigenous people will see triple the amount of money under a separatist government and than they would under the current arrangement. What would you say to that in terms of what you're hearing from the message of separatists of more prosperity for First Nations under a separate Alberta?
I think Chief Tuckrow wants to take that one.
Yeah, Chief Tuckrow here, I could answer that. For him to state that we benefit a lot more, that's funny he would state that publicly when at times he represented a lot of us, and from the shady deals he did, I'd be running to the States too. And that's the reason why when we did the legislature rally there, I made mention that this traitor needs to be warned with our people, our brothers and sisters in the States, that they too will just be taken advantage by this, I guess, this person that believes separation can happen, but I truly believe the only thing that could separate on him is probably his ass cheeks. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Tuckrow.
I have a question for Chief Alan Adam. You mentioned dark money funding this campaign, this movement. I believe you were talking about it funding the Alberta Prosperity Project. Could you talk a little bit more about the source of that funding and why you believe that there are people being paid $20,000 a month to carry this over?
When you look at the undertaking that's going on, these people are not going to do things for nothing. We sat here and we planned out how we're going to organize what we're going to do to campaign against the no vote for the referendum, and it's a big undertaking. We determined real quick what it's going to cost to organize a movement like that. The Alberta Prosperity Project, when you look at it right now, that's going on all over the place. Where did they get the money to rent these big venues? Where did they get the money to buy the coffees, the water, all these things? Where did all that come from? Do you think that Canadians or Albertans are willingly to give money for a separation movement for 10 to 15%? They went out of our country to obtain money. There are talks within the structure about what's going on that there's $500 million that were secured for the separation of Alberta. And these were the doings of the Americans, sending money. Danielle Smith went down to Mar-a-Lago with Kevin O'Leary when Trump was elected. That was not an invitation for hello, how are you doing? That was an invitation for support and for funding. I'll say this. Danielle Smith, if you don't come clean and stop this rhetoric of separation, you will feel the wrath of First Nations, because you're not going to get the advice from Jeff this time.
Is this a call to the big media here? If this separation happens, and since it's already, the talks are already being made here today about it, are you willing to say that because of her actions of Premier Danielle Smith, would you call to ask for her removal as the Premier of Alberta?
Certainly.
Yes.
Thank you for that question. Over the last few months, after a lot of, I'd say the last couple of years, we've seen the legislations increasing harm on future First Nation, like on our future and our treaty rights. And some of them are hostile to our way of life. And what we witnessed here over the last few weeks, few months, is really a galvanization of our people coming together, acknowledging the threat in front of us. The threat is not just here. The threat is not only national, it's not provincial, it's global. We've seen what happened in Venezuela. We're hearing the rhetoric that's happening in Greenland. And if we're not taking those things seriously, then what are we doing? We're taking those very seriously. And we have galvanized all across this country. I talked to nations in Quebec, Saskatchewan, all over, and the same messaging. We're with you 100%. And and if that's what it takes to change the mind of what's happening here today before us, then yeah, absolutely. If I was doing such a bad job, I would expect my people to tell me that you're doing a bad job. Maybe it's time for somebody else to take over. And I would gladly do that. As a responsible person for the rights of our people and the well-being of our people. And we're being challenged significantly. And if that's what it's going to take, then that's the push that needs to happen, then absolutely, 100%.
So just to reiterate, for each and every one of you, are you saying that you are calling for the removal of Premier Danielle Smith for the actions of causing even the talks or discussions of separating Alberta from the territories, because this not only affects Alberta, but this affects all First Nations territories in the country. What a lot of people don't know is that Treaty 6 alone embeds through Alberta and Saskatchewan as well. By breaking those treaties, you're doing a lot more damage than you are good. So are you calling for her removal from the office here in the province of Alberta?
Danielle Smith and the UCP government do the right thing and resign immediately. Because from here on in forward, the road is going to get rocky and rough.
Our nations have launched legal actions against the province. We expect the courts to uphold the Canadian Constitution and the treaties that protect our rights. Agreements made long before Alberta became a province. We're asking Albertans to stand with us. Call or email your MLAs, MPs, ask them where they stand. With the United Canada and the Constitution, or with a movement that threatens both country and treaty rights.
And call out the people of Alberta for your support against the separatists, because it obviously is an issue, not just for us, but for you as well. The resources were never sold, the land was never sold, and I said it once before, I'd like to say it again. Premier Smith, show us the title of the land. Please show us the title and the proof that you own the land before you impose any more legislations upon the people in Alberta and the people of the treaty territories 6, 7, and 8. Please respect our treaties, learn our treaties before you impose any more legislation or try to push your laws down our throats, because it will not happen. We will not accept it. Hayay miigwech.